Hello, goddesses. Phew, very rarely do I manifest examples of what I'm talking about as quickly as I have done today. Hi, everyone. My name is Dee Savoy, your goddess whisperer, hoping to whisper to the goddess inside you and to help you live a happier, healthier life that you dream of, desire, and deserve. And today, for me, has been a comedy of errors, of things going wrong, trying to create this video for you today. And the topic that I was talking about, obviously, was the shadow, our shadow selves. And I wanted to talk with you about two of the emotions that can come up when our shadow self is at play. Okay. And how they present themselves and what you can do about them in your life, right? Needless to say, I woke up this morning and I have succumbed to the family cold that everybody has. And, generally when I come on here, I have at least try to have a little makeup on my face and look presentable. And this kind of looks like my schmuck is non funny and, all kinds of other stuff. And I was feeling like I don't really want to do this today. I really just want to go back in my bed and relax and whatever. And guess what? When I went back after I finished talking, I realized there was no sound on my video. Now, mind you, for some unknown reason, my Zoom is stuck on always asking me to check my sound and my voice, right? What can I hear? What can I? Well, I checked, and then it decided to uncheck me, I guess. So, um, when we are talking about our shadow selves, we know this is the unconscious part of ourselves. If you think of our whole being as like an iceberg, the iceberg is 10% above the water, 90% below the water, right? That's the same level of awareness we have of our conscious selves, right? So when you think about it, there's much more that lies under the water, right? Than there is on the top. So there's a lot of stuff going on the bottom. We don't even know what's going on down there because we don't delve down there, right? We do not know what is going on down there. So our shadow self operates in order to keep us safe because our shadow self is mostly because it's not conscious, it's not aware of everything that's going on. It can act in ways that seem contrary or may not make sense to us, logical sense to us. But, like every aspect of us is not logical. So it may act in ways to help keep us safe, happy, and protected. Okay? Just me. As you can tell, this cold has gotten. So, anyway, what did my shadow self do for me today? It made it so that I had to take down that video that I was really feeling in because if you can't hear it, right? What's the point of having a video, right? I mean, I know I'm gorgeous, but nobody just wants to look at me blamming away, right? So my shadow self said, "Hey, we're just going to make it so that that cannot be used, and you can go back to sleep and not think about it anymore." Well, my shadow self doesn't know conscious me. So here I am again. This is actually the third time I'm trying to make this video. The second time, my screen just completely froze. Okay, and I still have to go back and delete those other videos. My screen just froze. Can't make a video if your screen won't move, right? So that is how our shadow self acts to protect us. Now, I could have gotten angry when I realized there was no sound on my video, but I didn't. I was like, really? Really? Okay, I know your shadow self, that part of me that doesn't like to, really go out of the house not looking at least somewhat presentable, right? Or to be seen somewhat presentable, right? So I understood, I recognized why this is happening. And so it's not making me upset. It's not making me feel anger. It's just making me feel like, okay, when I'm done with this, I'm going back to bed. See you folks, and I'll talk to you tomorrow after I doctor myself up a little bit with some herbs and some medication and stuff, right? So it also the other um thing that generally comes up in when we're talking about our shadow selves is the emotion of fear. We become fearful of things or situations that we don't understand. Like, why is it that every time I try to do X, right, something always happens to mess it up? So I become fearful of putting myself out there, right, and doing it again. And I could have thought of that myself today. I'm just feeling a little fearful because if I try to do this again, maybe it won't work because I'm still feeling the same. I'm still feeling a little. And come to think of it, I even took my earrings off from the first video, so I at least looked a little bit more presentable than I do right now, right? But anyway, the point is that fear could start to arise in you when things don't go your way, and you may feel as if no matter what I do, things are not going to happen for me. I'm gonna, I'm gonna fail at the things that I try, or whatever, and that fear can arise in you also. But I think if we take a step back, and I think we can sometimes get lost in our emotions. Now, emotions are a guidepost to what's going on in your life right at that moment, right? Anybody can feel anger. Anybody can feel fear, whether it is justified or warranted. We're not trying to deal with that, okay? Because if a feeling arises, it's like a guidepost. If you become angry about something, if you become triggered about something, you feel anxious about something, whatever emotion that arises for you, there is a reason for it. And emotions should be honored. Does that mean we need to wallow in them forever? Absolutely not. If you become angry about a situation, okay, there may be a really good reason why you become angered about something. You may not always understand it. That's why we think about things as being triggering to different emotions that we feel, because we not always understand why we feel particular emotions, but we should honor them. We should feel them. And then we should do whatever it takes to release them, because they're not meant to be held onto forever. They're just supposed to guide us and say, you don't like that. This is not a situation you want to be in. This is, if this person is doing things that make you upset or angry, maybe that's somebody who you don't need to have in your life right now, whatever, or whatever that message is that is coming in from your emotions. So, uh, when you feel anger or you feel fear, and these are very heavy emotions to go through, right? If you're just looking at them from an everyday perspective, like somebody cut you off in traffic, you feel anger. Should you feel anger for the rest of the day for that? Probably not. If nobody's hurt and there's no damage to anybody's car, it could just be a momentary, oh goodness, can't people drive? And you release it and you go on. If somebody seriously betrays you, it may take a lot longer for that anger to be worked through your energetic system to be released. Okay. But does that mean that you should feel that anger toward that person forever? No, no. But maybe it means that if somebody is mistreating you, you should cut it off sooner than you did this time, and not allow somebody to walk on you, step on you, or to do things that will harm you when you recognize that pattern again in somebody else. But I'm digressing just a little bit. But when I had the incidents that I had to make this video, right, today, I didn't get angry because I recognized what I was doing for myself. That unconscious part of me was saying, girl, go to bed. Nobody needs to hear from you today. But, I persevered. Um, I could have also been, afraid again, like sometimes um, it can be technology can be a pain in the ass. And, sometimes it just won't work for you. And sometimes you get like, ugh, get frustrated, you get fearful that this is a time when it's not going to work again. But once again, I persevered. But when you take a look at these two emotions, the thing that you most need to deal with them is compassion for that part of yourself whose job it is. And this is the major part of what our shadow self does for us is to keep us happy, safe, and unharmed, to keep us from danger. And a lot of times when things are going wrong in our life, that shadow, because it is not out in the conscious world with us, perceives that as danger, perceives that as someone doing something to us rather than, life pointing us, guiding us in the direction we should go. Sometimes we want to go in a direction that's not good for us at all. And sometimes life will kind of steer us away from that. And if you're so dead set on that thing, you kind of get hit in the head over and over again. Stop that. Stop that. Go in this direction, which is really where you should go. This is really what you should do. Like, I shouldn't really be in bed right now. Anyway, but we need to have compassion for that part of ourselves that does these things, that acts in ways that prevent us from doing the things that we think we are supposed to be doing at that moment, right? Or maybe we we may call this self-sabotage, right? Because there is a part of ourself that is sabotaging us from doing the things we think we are going to do or the things that we think we're supposed to be doing. Okay. But if we have compassion for that part of ourselves, if you have compassion for somebody and they do something disagreeable, what do? You ask them, hey, what the heck was that about? What's going on here? And you explore within yourself or with that person what the heck is going on. And you don't necessarily become angry because you recognize that someone is working on your behalf, even if it's not the thing that you desire, the thing that you consciously feel is the best thing for you. So, this is why we do shadow work, is to delve into those parts of ourselves that sometimes sabotage us, that make us angry, that have fear rise up in us so that we uh, pull back from doing the things that seem to be calling to us to do. And once we explore a little bit more, we can understand why certain things trigger us. Let me tell you very quickly a story about myself and fear that I didn't understand until I delved into my shadows and figured out why. And ever since I was a little kid, I was afraid of cars. I was afraid of being in a car. I was afraid of driving. I was not so much afraid of like being in the car, but but just the idea of being around cars. And when I was very young, I had a favorite cousin, and he was killed in a car accident. The car jumped the curb. Sorry about that. The car jumped the curb and and ran him over. And um, I didn't really remember that. I remember him dying. I didn't really remember what the cause was, but at the time, I once I really started to delve into uh, my own psyche, I remembered making him a promise that I would never learn to drive so that I would never kill people. And it wasn't until doing work with myself to figure out why am I so triggered by cars and driving that I remembered this promise that I made to him. Was it a rational promise? Absolutely not. Okay. Um, was it something that was underneath the surface that I didn't remember and I didn't know? Yes. Was this what was making me triggered around cars and things like that? Absolutely. But once I recognized what was going on and how I was and why I was being triggered, I learned to drive. Granted, I was 35. So it took me a while to figure it out. But this is the work of shadow work. And now, on that note, I'm going to bid you adieu, fair goddesses, and I will see you tomorrow. I hope this helps you understand a little bit about yourself and your own shadow, and to have compassion for whatever the shadow is doing, and to seek it out and to try to understand why is it acting in a particular way. So see you tomorrow, hopefully. Bye bye.